Okay, so when you're buying your first guitar or your third or your fifth or your 10th guitar, one of the most important parts of guitar that people don't talk about or don't understand is the radius. So hopefully we're going to talk about the neck radius on a guitar and maybe help you guys in your buying decisions as we go forward. So to explain what the actual radius is in mathematics and geometry and all that, let's just skip that because none of us are math heads. Well, some of you are watching are. I like math, but I don't understand it thoroughly. Anyway, here we go. Think of a clock. Think of a clock from pretty much 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. And if it's a small clock, you're going to have a vintage spec radius in 7¼ inch. But the bigger the clock, the flatter that arc from 11 to 1 is going to get, thus a flatter radius. So if you keep expanding forever, you're going to have a giant clock, which might get you that 12-inch board eventually. But just think of clock, 11 to 1. My favorite times of the nighttime as well. So let's talk about a vintage spec one on a Fender in particular. That's going to be a 7¼ inch radius, and that's very curved, very comfortable for chording. But as you move up the fretboard, you're going to start to get a little bit more of a dramatic string height issue unless you have a really great setup guitar, which we love to do, and you can still get it. But it's definitely a much more vintage feel, great for chording. You're going to have some string height issues and also some fret outs if you don't have it set up just right. Now the more modern, I'm using Fender right now as an example, Fender radius, gosh, I mean almost 75% of the guitars are around 9½ inch radius. So that's a little bit flatter across the whole board, very comfortable, easy to play. They found that sort of like the magic Goldilocks formula for a comfortable neck play. Now when we switch over to other guitars, let's talk about Gibsons. They're all pretty much on a 12-inch radius. Some Fenders have it, but most are in that 9½. But Gibsons sort of sit in that 12-inch. Gretsch's kind of go that 16-inch sometimes. Classical guitars are flat as can be almost. It's just a flat plane. No radius at all almost. And so let's go back to Gibson. Why is their radius different and how does that affect your playing? Chording's going to feel a little bit uncomfortable, but when you get up there and you're doing like single note solos and bending, you're really not going to have any problem fretting out. You can get the action quite a bit lower. It's going to play really easily up there, and you get that sustain just how you want it without much fatigue. So the height of the strings on a guitar is usually set to compensate and work with the radius on a fretboard. So you're going to find your saddles are adjusted, and you're going to see like a much greater deviation in a vintage spec one from Fender. You're going to have where your bass and your treble are low and your middle strings get high. With a Les Paul, it's going to be a lot more even, as you can see with the way the Les Paul bridge is set up as well. Compound radius. That's one of our favorite specs. We love them on all the vintage spec instruments we've played when they come with like sort of the no-caster ideas and some of the most modern Fenders, a lot of them, not most, but the Ultra and stuff like that, those pieces have a compound radius. And they go from like about a 9½ to a 12 to sometimes even flatter. And we love like a 7¼ to a 10. That's sort of one of our favorite, again, Goldilocks formulas. But what happens with the compound radius too, which most people don't think about, as the guitar gets flatter on the fretboard radius, it also gets a little flatter behind the neck. So as you start down low, you're going to have a little bit wider neck, and if you look at the back of the guitar, you're going to see the top. It normally gets bigger as the guitar expands out towards the body. It gets a little bit thinner as you get with the compound radius, slightly. So if you have an extreme compound radius, going from like, let's say you went 7¼ to 16, you're going to visibly see the neck get slimmer as it goes up. So hopefully that helps dispel some of the mysteries of radius on your guitar fretboard. It's a really important thing, and it depends what kind of music you play. If you're a country player, you're probably going to want sort of a little bit of that vintage spec, just get those chords in there. If you're a rhythm and guitar player, you definitely want that. If you're a lead shredder though, you're going to want that flat, radius, maybe compound, but just it's something to really think about when you're diving deep in those specs. And if you have any questions, concerns, comments, just want to yell at us for any reason, just shoot us something in the comments. We'll get back to you. We don't yell though. We're really nice. Click subscribe, all that other fun stuff. Thanks for tuning in. See you guys later.